everybody, to all our wonderful viewers of HUNAR CHARCHA. Hope all of you are doing well. Today we're going to be talking about a very special artist, architect, Antoni Gaudi. There's one thing that everyone, of course, knows about him is the Sagrada Familia, which is a masterpiece that was envisioned by him. Still isn't complete, still is under construction because of the intricacies involved. But there is so much more to Gaudi than just Sagrada. And this has come across us in the form of a bookcase, in the form of a three-piece book set here, which takes us into the world, the fascinating world and mind of Antoni Gaudi. And this is coming from the Artica books. But before we get talking more in detail with the team of Artica books here for their latest, which is called GAUDI UPCLOSE, let's take a look at this video capsule.
Cuando realizamos una obra sobre un artista, nos gusta que todos los elementos que la componen sean de alguna manera un homenaje a ese artista y reflejen los materiales con los que trabajó o los intereses que tenía y que de alguna manera respire mucho del artista que estamos trabajando.
Escogimos la madera porque tenía que ser un material resistente para aguantar lo que contiene. Está pintada con pintura texturizada para evitar que se raye, las manchas, y con polvo de cemento, porque lo que queríamos era conseguir una textura igual que la pared de piedra. Y el interior del estuche está forrado con una tela con costuras para conseguir un mejor acabado.
Elegimos la chimenea de la Pedrera porque creo que es muy emblemática y además es muy elegante.
La chimenea es igual que la de la Pedrera. El escultor le pedimos que hiciese una réplica exacta de la chimenea de la Pedrera con las proporciones que nosotros necesitábamos para el estuche. Una vez conseguimos esta escultura es cuando de esta escultura de piedra sacamos un molde de colada. Un molde de colada que rellenamos con marmolina, polvo de mármol con resina. Una vez ese componente se seca, lo desmoldamos y lo pintamos exactamente con la misma pintura texturizada que la caja.
Y por último tenemos su gran obra, que es la de la Sagrada Familia, y muchas cosas relacionadas con ella.
Hemos reproducido todas las arrugas, hemos reproducido todas las manchas que tienen los dibujos.
Tenemos dos artículos fundamentales de Juanjo La Huerta. El libro de estudios cuenta también con un artículo sobre la arquitectura mediterránea de Joan Icahn. Y por último tenemos el comentario del arquitecto de la Sagrada Familia, Jordi Faulí.
Los dibujos de Gaudí, de sus edificios, también de la Sagrada Familia, pues servían para comunicar, para expresar el proyecto en detalles diferentes, depende del plano. Los que además son hechos mano alzada, pues también se ve el trazo. Si un dibujo a mano alzada, pues un arquitecto, un artista, pues expresa con más claridad las intenciones, en el caso del arquitecto, del proyecto. Por tanto, por esto tienen este gran valor.
And for this very, very special episode of HUNAR CHARCHA, we have with us right here, all the way from Barcelona, the director of Artica Books, Mark Buil. Mark, thank you so much for being with us here. And to start with, many, many congratulations for this work of art that you and your team has created.
Hello, and thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So in what we've been seeing is that this has been a 10-year process the work behind the scenes of collecting all details regarding Antoni Gaudi and all that has been around, scattered across the world, and bringing it all together. Help us understand a bit behind the scenes on what this process has really been like.
Well, as you said, it's a very large process. Normally in Arctica, it's normal that our projects takes normally 4 or 5 years, because we have to contact with the artist. We start, we make a proposal of the project that we want to do. We start developing. Then there is the process of design, the process of the creation, no, because it's an artisanal process. So normally it takes 4 or 5 years, but in this case was more than 10. It was almost 12 or 13 years old. Years of yes. It was. It's very complicated because you know that Gaudí died in 1926, and then 10 years later there was a fire in his studio in La Sagrada Familia,
right?
And all his plans, all his models, and all his drawings were completely destroyed. But all these plans were there exactly how he had left them 10 years before. But the fire destroyed completely his studio, and all these things, all the memories of Gaudí was completely erased, apart from the buildings that people know, no? And over a 10-year period, we searched all the municipality archives, all the private collections, in order to identify and put together all the remaining drawings that survived the fire, no? Because those are the only ones that were in the studio. That was the big work, was to put together all that works to give it in this book, to display it in this book.
So when you say that you had to dig through other archives, other offices, did this also mean going out to other countries within Europe or perhaps overseas as well, in getting all the possible archives, all sketches, all details, casts, thoughts, notings, diary entries that exist?
No, the main archives were in around Barcelona or in Spain, but not outside Spain. It's true that Gaudí had a project, for example, in New York, a hotel, but never was built, and all these drawings or these models were in Spain. But also it's very difficult to find it because we're in these archives or in this private collection. It was very difficult to find and put together all of them.
All right, and this piece that you have standing in your studio, this is something that I have here as well, that you so generously shared with us here. And so tell us about this. The touch and feel of it almost feels like an original. And
yes.
I would like to hear the story from you about
Okay. The story, it's yeah, it's very interesting, because what we do always in Arctica is trying to we you know that we work directly with the artists where we have the opportunity, or if not, we have to deal with the museums or foundations who have the rights of the artists if they're not alive. But our approach is always to, in this case with Gaudí, it's how Gaudí would have created this book if he was alive. No, Gaudí was an artist who played with a lot with materials. He used stone. He used the trencadís. That it's like this. Trencadís is this technique. It's like we can call it the Catalan broken mosaic. These little pieces of ceramic and porcelain, and he used also iron, because he became from a family of boil makers. Okay, so he learned how to work with iron, how to give these shapes to iron. So he used these three materials, no, the stone, the trencadís, and the iron in his works. So here in our artist book, homage to Gaudí, we wanted to use also these materials. That's why in the book, in the art book, we have bound the book with iron covers. Then in the study book, we have a trencadís effect in the cover also. And in the sculpture, in the case, sculpture case, it is this material that it seems it's a wood and resin case, but is painted with cement.
Dust.
Okay, yes, and this is this effect that you can. It's like touching the real one. And here I have a picture because this is the top chimney of La Pedrera, and this is the case, our sculpture. Right. So it's a completely homage to the artist.
Right, but you call it a homage, but for me it's bringing home a piece of Gaudi. When one has access to this bookcase and the 3-set book that Artica Books has just created, it's bringing home a part of Gaudi and living with the piece. So I am very much impressed with this entire visualization of your team, because it's not just a booklet of putting together sheets, putting together archive. It's creating an experience. And when I am with this bookcase, it's about managing to live in Gaudi's studio, or with his piece, or with his creation. It literally transforms you to that world. Was that the idea?
Yeah, absolutely. Because Gaudí is the most important reference in Barcelona, maybe, and he 7 of his buildings has been declared World Heritage by UNESCO. Right. He defines Barcelona, and everybody who visits Barcelona visit at least 1 or 2 monuments of Gaudí. But what we wanted to show is not the small, the most evident part. Is the intimate part. No, it's discovered this undiscovered Gaudí, the personal Gaudí, the drawings, something that people even didn't know that exists. And through that drawings and through the study books that explain it, you can discover how Gaudí works, how he created these buildings, how he thought, how important was nature and religious for him. All these kind of things you learn if you are in touch with this book.
Since you talk about the Sagrada Familia, of course, it's one of the biggest chapters, and for many people across the world, it's the one and only thing related to Gaudi. The book, of course, adds many more dimensions and aspects and contributions from his work here. But specifically asking about the Sagrada, people who've been there in Spain, watching it under construction for over a century now, for more than 100 years. In your understanding, to what extent is the final piece, whenever it's ready? I mean, I'm given to understand 2026 was the deadline, but with the pandemic, I believe that has been delayed now as well. But to what extent is the final piece of the Sagrada Familia going to be a complete vision of Gaudi? Because it has been so many more years after his death of reinterpreting his work. Of course, he left behind a lot of details. It's unimaginable. He left behind sketches, he left behind plaster molds. There's very strict instructions of how to go about with the construction. But do you think the final piece will be his vision eventually?
Yes, because Gaudi has this illusion. In fact, when Gaudi starts the project of Sagrada Familia, there was a charge there. There was another architect starting the building of Sagrada Familia, building Sagrada Familia, with obviously was a completely another project, completely different. And that architect forget of the project after 2 or 3 years working on the church that they wanted to build in that part of Barcelona. And then Gaudí, over that project, started to create the Sagrada Familia. And he also wanted other artists to put his own way of seeing art. So he allows other people to introduce his touch.
Okay.
So I'm sure that the result of the Sagrada Familia will, even other artists put their art, it will be also a Gaudí work, because it's what he wanted. He obviously he knew that it was impossible to see the Sagrada Familia finished, no? So I think it's part of the project, allowing other people to participate and to follow the guides, because he more than what he did was create some guides, but not a closed thing. No, so it's open to reinterpretation, as you said.
Right. Apart from the Sagrada, of course, there are many more structures, many more commission projects here, and which were buildings sanctioned by the municipality, which were public projects, which were also private residential projects, and that's where you see another quirky side to his designs. Take us through part of that journey of people's acceptability to his design, which at that time did take some time, because it was so wild and out of the blue and away from strict rules or formulas.
Gaudí, yes. Well, there is an anecdote that I like with this. It's when he was creating the La Pedrera, you know, the Milà house, Casa Milà, yes. Is La Pedrera, it means in Catalan, it means quarry, no? The place where stones are extracted.
Yeah.
And that's because he was an avant-garde of his time, no? And when he was building the Pedrera, what Barcelona neighbors was seeing there was just a lot of stones in the middle of the street, and that they were creating a building with a design completely different of what they used to see in Barcelona. And they call it La Pedrera, no, the quarry, in a pejorative way, no? They were laughing at him. And then finally, he created that treasure of Barcelona, no? And then it somehow connects for me with another anecdote that I like. That is, you know that Gaudí was an irregular student. And the university rector said on the day of his graduation ceremony, he said, I'm not sure if we are giving the degree to a madman or a genius, no? And just only time will tell. And that's exactly the same, no? What happens in La Pedrera.
Do you think the stability of the structures was ever an issue, because it was there were no straight lines, there were either crooked or curvaceous? I remember reading this account of a private resident who lives in Casa Milà, and she said that it's impossible thinking to have a bookshelf because this place has no straight walls. You think stability was ever a concern? Now, of course, it's been more than 100 years that his structures have been standing, but is that still a concern? To keep reinforcing it in renovations, and
Yes, obviously, I suppose it needs the. I'm not an expert. I'm not an architect, so I don't know exactly if they have to do something to maintain that structures. But for me, it's very interesting how he or why he create these structures, no? And that's because he loved nature, and he said if you can find straight lines in nature, why I have to put the straight lines in a building? No, and that's the reason why in La Pedrera and all these buildings there is no straight lines, as you said, and it's impossible to put a bookshelf, no?
Yeah.
Because in nature you can find this, because he was in love with nature. He spent a lot of days when he was a child. He has a weak health, and he has to spend a lot of time at home. He live in a countryside, in the countryside, an hour from Barcelona, more or less, and he spent a lot of time discovering nature. And I suppose that's the reason why he then want to put and introducing nature in all his buildings and creations.
There's one very important aspect of the bookcase that you've released at Artica. One is, of course, the art book per se, in recreating his sketches and printing it out in paper, whether he's used gouache on cotton paper or whether they're sketches on tracing paper in the original size. Because when one opens the book, it's like we are personal guests in Gaudi's studio, and he's showing us these sketches in real size, and they've partly been stuck on these pages. You can perhaps take them out and frame them and up your walls as well. How did that come about? Because it's a bookcase which is a curation. It's not just about an academic putting together of material that has been found. It's also curating an experience.
Yes. Yeah, and it's part of the process of these 10 years of the project, no? And then that we have worked with the most important people in Gaudi's world, no? We have worked with Jordi Faulí, which is the head architect in Sagrada Familia.
Yes.
We have worked with Juan José La Huerta, who is the director of Gaudí Chair at Polytechnic University at Catalonia. And we have also worked with Mireia Freixa, who is a professor of art history at the University of Barcelona and a specialist of Gaudí. So we created this work team within all these years, just to trying to have this approach, no, to have the materials, to have the drawings, but at the same time to understand what are the drawings. No, I like to say that our study books, it's like a museum guide. No, you don't have just the drawings, you have the explanation. It's when you go to an exhibition, you can just see the works, but maybe you don't understand. But when you go with a museum guide, you understand, you put in context, you understand the biography of the artist, why he was doing this. That's what we try to do with our books. No, it's giving the treasure, giving these drawings, giving this intimate part, and then put it in context of his work.
Right. A lot of this is, of course, delving into his professional life. Do you think the book also offers aspects to his personal life, of his qualities as a person?
Yeah. Well, it's not the focus on of the book, but it's something that it's there when you understand that he created the school in the Sagrada Familia. When you see that his main objective was was completely focused on the creation of these projects. Money wasn't important for him. When you discover how he died, no, when he had the accident with the tram, and people find him and wanted, because of the way he was dressing, he was people well, they take the Gaudí and go to a hospital, a very poor hospital, until they discovered that he was Antoni Gaudí, and then they wanted to move it to another hospital, no, a higher hospital, and then he said, no, this is my place. No, this is different part of things of his character, his personality, that you understand, and it's more or less in the book. It's not the focus of the book, but you discover.
It comes through in between. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. He carried on with the intricacy of his design. irrespective of the material that was used. I mean, he did that for iron grills and gates. He did that on stone. He did that on plaster. He did that using ceramic tiles. Irrespective of the medium, he didn't look at it as a challenge or something that perhaps this is a design that cannot be cast in iron. He went ahead with his design, and that also opened up space for material to be used differently, perhaps, which wasn't used earlier.
Yes, no, and that's what I said, that I think it was an avant-garde artist, no, and he, for example, with this technique, the trancadís, this broken mosaic art, no, why he was using this technique is, I think, for two main reasons. One is because it allows him to recycle and reuse materials like ceramics or porcelain, no, and he had this conscious of recycling, no, and that's very it's very difficult to find in those times an artist with this conscious of recycling, no. And the other is that this technique allows him to do the shapes that he wanted, no.
Mm-hmm.
We talked previously that he didn't like the straight lines, no. They put curves everywhere, so
yeah,
this technique allows him to do these shapes, no. I'm thinking, for example, with the bench in Parc Güell, the benches are all of them created with
in wavy
this
form. Yeah.
Yeah.
Explain to us, if you can, on Spain's love for Gaudi. It's just not with respect to his design. It's more like a sentiment. It's a sentiment to carry on putting in funds for the Sagrada Familia to finally see the complete work, whenever that happens, maybe 6 to 10 years from now, perhaps. But it's a very strong sentiment. It's beyond what can be explained as a mere dedication.
Yes, but I think it's normal, and then it's not just something that you can see in Barcelona or Spanish people, which it's normal, no, because it's an artist from here that created all these buildings here, not just Sagrada Familia, all the other projects. But it's something that you see with everybody, with all the tourism that arrives to Barcelona, that has this passion. They want to visit at least one, no, one Gaudí monument, at least. Sagrada Familia, it's like the must. But then there are a lot of excursions that go to the other parts of Barcelona or outside Barcelona to see the other projects, the other buildings. It's something that I think it's normal when you have a genius and people love it. It's normal.
You and your team at Artica have made it their forte of not just printing out books on great artists, but it's a lot more about curating an experience is how I think defines it best. What have been these other projects, and what can we expect to see in the coming years?
Okay. Now, from the beginning, 18 years ago, our desire was to create a great collection of artist books, no, of the best artists in the world, and that's what we have done with El Quijote de Dalí, with Picasso, with Van Gogh, with Miquel Barceló, Jaume Plensa, Fernando Botero, and that's what we try to do. Always publish limited number editions, and every book, if you see, every book is completely different. No, we don't follow a creative pattern. Every book is completely different, because what we try to do always is go into the heart of the artist, spend many hours with them or their families or the museums or foundations who have the rights, and then from that intimate part, we'll try to we are ready to create a very personal book, no. Again, playing with the materials, with the colors, with the design, and doing this book. So this is our history, and now we are working with a lot of projects. Normally, we launch 1 or 2 books every year, because it's a very, you see, normally it takes 4 or 5 years to produce a book. We are working in many different projects, but the one that we are going to launch, I think maybe in 3 or 4 months, I hope in June or July, it's one of Frida Kahlo.
Ah,
And it's an amazing book of Frida Kahlo, because it's the dreams of Frida Kahlo. It's a very a very intimate drawings of Frida Kahlo, and it's an
wow.
amazing project that I hope it will appear soon in July, maybe June, July.
Wow. Now that you mention it, I can't wait to see that either. How challenging is it to sustain book publishing and books of this nature?
Well, we are lucky to belong to a big publishing house, a big group publishing house, which is Grupo Planeta. We
Okay.
have a lot of publishing house inside the group. We have a media company also. We have different businesses, and this is just one of the business of the group that it's focusing in creating these art books. And it's a business where it's not so important to make profits. No, we obviously we have to be careful, but with the inventions, but it's a project. It's more, it's not a foundation, but it's more
Right.
something that we want to create this great collection of because we think that Grupo Planeta, which is the group we belong to, it deserves to have this brand, this company dedicated to these projects. No,
Yeah.
so it's difficult. It's difficult because it's books that obviously it's very expensive to create these books, because it's a lot of years. There are more than 100 people involved in every project. It's something that it's completely an artisanal process, so it's very expensive to produce. But well, finally we can do it, and it's
No, that's
very nice.
that's wonderful. I should call this one of the greatest service to art, to be
Yeah.
creating these pieces, to be creating your bookcases and pieces. I would call them art pieces in themselves, and to be sharing it with the world. I think it's a huge service, because it's tough out there, but particularly when you're looking at the arts per se and the arts industry, it's always an uphill task to be managing that.
Yes, yes. We always said that it's something. It's like a new category art between the book wall and the art wall, no? And it's something,
Right.
for me, it's very interesting, because it also allows to arrive to more people. All obviously, it's a limited edition, but imagine, for example, with Fernando Botero, Jaume Plensa, or Dalí, it's very difficult to have an original of that artist at home, because there are not a lot of works, and because it's very expensive. So if you have a way of in this case with Gaudí, 5,000 people in the world will have the possibility of have these drawings. No, it's a way, or the other artists. No, it's a way of having something. No, the Fernando Botero. It's a piece of Fernando Botero. It has his own signature there. It's not obviously, it's not a sculpture, but it's something new. But you have something of Fernando Botero, and it's nice.
That's right. No, I like how you described it. It's in between creating a new niche of an art book and an art piece. So it's really in between that, and it's created this new niche. Thank you so much for being with us here on HUNAR CHARCHA, and on behalf of all our viewers across Asia. You've been here with us from Barcelona in creating this experience of Antoni Gaudí for us. Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure. Thank you very much.